her blood on snow, with her leg bent the wrong way. Lyra does not scream anymore. She screamed at the gates of Silverfang, and the gates closed anyway. Now she only breathes, because a healer knows what cold does to a body that cannot walk. Then a shadow taller than the pines, and a voice the whole world fears. She is Silverfang. He knows it by her scent before he sees her face. The one bloodline in 5 territories the Alpha King signed away with his own claw in his own blood. If he touches her, the treaty burns, and the war his father ended begins again. If he walks away, the bond that has just struck him like lightning will follow him into madness. There is no third road. So Kael, the most feared alpha alive, kneels in the snow. Not to claim her, to say 5 words the treaty allows. A packless healer may be taken into service. Remember this, Snow. Before this story ends, it will fall again, and everything else will be different. He lifts her, the forest watches, and far behind them, Silverfang's horns begin to sound. Chapter 1. 3 days earlier, Lyra is on her knees in the healer's hut, and no one is watching her at all. That is the shape of her whole life in Silverfang. She is the pack's only healer, and its lowest rank. Hollow-born, they call her. A wolf born without the fighting gift, worth nothing in a pack that measures worth in teeth. They remember her name when someone bleeds. They forget it by morning. Tonight, someone bleeds slowly. Elder Vane, the oldest voice on the pack council, is sick again, the 3rd time this moon. Lyra crushes Silverleaf into hot water and frowns, because his sickness is wrong. Old hearts fail like tired horses, gently. This is not gentle. His gums are gray. His breath carries a faint metal smell, like a coin held under the tongue. She has seen that smell once before, in a book, beside one word, bitter moss, a poison that kills in small, patient doses. She writes it all down. Every visit, every dose, every symptom, in the worn ledger she has kept for 6 years. It is the only thing in the world that is truly hers. You take too long, says a voice from the doorway. Beta Roskin, the elder's own son, broad, golden, beloved. He watches her hands the way a hawk watches a mouse hole. Your father needs rest and clean water, Lyra says quietly. And I need to know what he has been eating. Something moves behind Roskin's eyes. Are you saying my father is being fed something? I'm saying I write down what I see. She closes the ledger. It's all in my records. She does not understand then why his jaw tightens. She only knows the room has grown colder. Understand this about Lyra. She is not brave the way warriors are brave. She is brave the way water is patient. Last winter, when fever swept the pack and the fine healers from the city refused to come, it was Lyra who sat 4 nights without sleep beside the Luna's 2 small pups, feeding them broth drop by drop. And it was Lyra the proud Luna Maressa never once thanked. The pups lived. Lyra went back to being invisible. She told herself that was enough. It has to be enough, she thinks now, walking home under a thin moon. What else is there for a hollow-born healer? No mate has ever offered for her. The moon goddess, people say, does not waste fated bonds on the bottom of a pack. She sleeps. She dreams of nothing. And she wakes to fists hammering her door apart. Elder Vane has collapsed, a guard snarls, dragging her into the dawn. And they found this in your satchel. In his hand, a pouch of dried bitter moss. The trial takes less than an hour, because it was finished before it began. The council chamber is packed. Roskin weeps beautifully for his poisoned father. The Alpha reads the charge in a voice like a closing door. Lyra says the only thing she has. Look at my records. every dose, every date. The sickness started before I ever... Check my records, they'll prove... There are no records, Roskin says softly. We searched the healer's hut. The floor tilts under her. 6 years of careful ink. Gone. Banishment. To the neutral forest, at once, forever. 2 guards take her arms, and as they pass the council doors, Roskin leans close, so close only she can hear, and gives her the truth like a gift she can never use. Your records burned an hour ago. You really did write everything down. That's why it had to be you. Chapter 2. They do not carry her gently to the border. At the last ridge she stumbles, and what happens to her leg happens fast and off in the dark. A wet sound and then whiteness. And when the world comes back, the guards are already walking away, and the gates of Silverfang are already closed, and Lira is alone in the neutral forest with a shattered leg and the snow beginning to fall. A healer knows exactly how she will die. That is the cruelest part of her gift tonight. Cold first, then sleep, then nothing. She drags herself anyway, one arm's length, another, because dragging is the only prayer she has left. What could she have done so wrong that even the moon looks away? She does not hear the rider until he is there. She smells him first, and this is strange, because through the pain and the frost, his scent reaches her like wood smoke and winter pine, like a hearth in a house she has never entered. Her wolf, silent her whole hollow-born life, stirs once, faintly, like something turning over in deep sleep. She is too broken to wonder why. Then she sees his eyes, and her blood knows before her mind does. Storm gray, crowned in frost. Every pup in 5 territories is raised on the shape of that face. Kael, the Alpha King, the conqueror of the eastern packs, the wolf who has never once been refused, except by one treaty, signed in blood 2 generations ago, that walls his line away from Silverfang forever. And she is Silverfang, banished, dying, and still forbidden. He stands over her for a long moment, utterly still, the way the sky is still before it breaks. His hands, she will remember later, are shaking. King's hands do not shake. Say your name, he says. Lira. Her voice is almost gone. Healer of... The word Silverfang dies in her mouth. Healer of no one. Something crosses his face like lightning behind clouds. He looks back the way he came. He looks at her. And then the most feared alpha alive kneels in the snow beside a broken, cast-off girl and speaks not to her, but to the law itself. A banished wolf is packless. A packless healer may be taken into service. So says the treaty. His voice is iron laid on velvet. You have skills. I have a fortress full of soldiers and not one healer worth the name. That is all this is. Do you understand? I am not saving you. She stares up at him through the falling snow. Then what are you doing? She whispers. Collecting, says the Alpha King, what fools threw away. I do not waste what fools throw away. He lifts her as if she weighs nothing, and pain takes her under, and the last thing she knows are horns crying out behind the trees and a heartbeat under her ear, running far too fast for a king who feels nothing. She wakes in a fortress of black stone, her leg splinted by a rough field hand, fever prowling the edges of her. Days blur, broth, bandages, a gruff old cook named Serna who smells of bread and does not ask questions. Lira is alive. She cannot understand why. On the fourth night, she understands. She is limping down a torchlit corridor on a crutch, looking for water, when she hears voices behind the war room door. A man's growl, General Bren, they call him, rough with satisfaction. Silverfang's own healer, sitting in our keep. My king, do you see what you hold? If they poisoned their elder, she's the witness. If they framed her, she's the proof of it. Either way, you finally have a blade at Silverfang's throat. Is that why you brought the little wretch back? Lyra stops breathing. Through the door's seam, she can see him. Kael, firelit, unreadable, turning a cup slowly in his hand. He does not say no. He does not say anything at all. Chapter 3. She does not sleep that night. She lies in her narrow room off the infirmary and lets the truth settle into her bones like frost into stone. She was not saved. She was picked up, the way a soldier picks up a dropped knife. A blade at Silverfang's throat, that is what she is. Very well, Lyra thinks, staring at the dark ceiling. She has been a tool her whole life. A tool, at least, is kept dry, kept sharp, kept fed. She will heal his soldiers, and she will owe this cold king nothing, and she will feel nothing. Because feeling anything for the man who owns her would be one humiliation more than she can carry. Her wolf deep down stirs again, restless. She tells it to be still. It does not quite obey. By morning, she has claimed the infirmary the way rain claims a dry field. The fortress of the war court is exactly what the songs say. Walls of black stone, 300 soldiers, banners like storm clouds. And its infirmary is a disgrace. Moldy herbs, rusted tools, a field hand named Corvo who sets bones by memory and prayer. Lyra, on one crutch, orders the whole room scrubbed, and to her own astonishment, the soldiers obey her. Not because she is anyone, because no one else has ever bothered. You'll want to be careful, old Serna says that evening, ladling her stew without being asked. This keep hasn't kept a healer 2 full moons in 5 years. They come, they see the wounds war brings, they go. Or the council frightens them off. The council? Counselor Dathan. Serna's voice drops the way voices do around old power. He wrote the treaty with Silverfang, back when the king's grandfather ruled. He's guarded it 40 years like it was his own pup. And you, girl, she nods at Lyra's Silverfang gray eyes. You are a treaty problem walking around on a crutch. Lyra meets the treaty problem's keeper on her 7th day. She is rebandaging a spear wound in the great hall's side corridor when the air changes. That hush that follows important men, and an old wolf in council white stops in front of her. Counselor Dathan is thin as winter branches, with kind, tired eyes, and that is the first thing Lyra will learn about him. He never once looks unkind. So you are the loophole, he says gently. I'm the healer. You are a Silverfang wolf inside the war court's walls, which the treaty forbids, held here by a single clause about packless healers, which the treaty permits. You are a knife balanced on its point, child. He sighs like a man genuinely grieved. I have spent my life keeping 2 peoples from drowning in each other's blood. I will not watch it undone by a king's, he chooses the word carefully, impulse. Then speak to the king. Oh, I have, Dathan smiles, and the smile is soft, and underneath it something is not. And now I have spoken to the Silver Court as well. That night the summons arrives with a rider whose horse is half dead from speed. Lira is called to the war room for the first time. She stands by the door, small on her crutch, while Kael reads the sealed page and the fire cracks and General Bren swears under his breath. Kael's voice, when it comes, is very quiet. Quiet, she is learning, is how this king sounds when the storm is close. The Silver Court of Elder Alphas summons the War Court to answer for harboring a Silverfang criminal in violation of the Blood Treaty. His storm gray eyes lift and find hers across the whole long room as if there were no one else in it. At the blood moon, 30 days from tonight. And if the court rules against us? Bren asks. It is Dathan who answers sorrowfully from his place at the king's right hand. Dathan, who wrote to the court himself, though no one in the room yet knows it. Then by treaty law, the girl is returned to Silverfang justice. He folds his thin hands. And Silverfang justice for a convicted poisoner is death. Chapter 4. 30 days. Then 29. Then 27. Lira learns to live with the number the way you live with a stone in your shoe. Every step a small reminder. She also learns the fortress. She learns that soldiers who growl at her in the morning bring her stolen apples by evening, once she has drained an abscess or saved a finger. She learns that the war court is short of healers because it is long on grief. Too many wounds, too few hands. And she learns, without meaning to, the habits of its king. That he sleeps 4 hours, walks the walls at night, and passes the infirmary far more often than any healthy man needs to. He never comes in. He stops in the doorway, asks one flat question, supplies, losses, complaints, and leaves. As if she is a report. As if, the night he carried her, she imagined the racing heart. She did not imagine what happens on day 23. A patrol brings in a boy, a rogue-born stable lad, 12 years old, burning with the marsh fever that killed 11 soldiers last autumn. Corvo takes one look and steps back. That fever answers no medicine we have. We isolate him and pray. You isolate him, Lira says, already rolling her sleeves, and I'll work. She works. 2 days and 2 nights, willow bark and ice water baths, and a bitter tincture she grinds herself from a moss that grows on the north wall. A Silverfang remedy, her grandmother's, the healer line's oldest secret and its plainest one. The humblest plants are the most stubborn. The whole keep waits for the boy to die. On the 3rd dawn, his fever breaks. Lira, hollow with exhaustion, steps out into the cold morning air and finds the Alpha King standing in the courtyard, absolutely still, as if he has been there some time. How long she will never know. Long enough that there is frost on his shoulders. The boy? He asks. He'll live. Something moves in that granite face. Surprise, or something warmer trying not to be surprise, and is gone so fast she nearly misses it. Good, Kael says flatly. Trained stable hands are expensive. And he turns and walks away. But Serna tells her later what Lira did not see, that the king stood in that courtyard both nights, and that when Corvo said the boy would die, the king said, "She won't allow it." And no one dared ask which she. He notices. He hides that he notices. She notices him hiding it. And neither of them says one word. Day 20. The near thing happens. An envoy from the southern Pax takes offense at his lodgings. Wine turns to words, words to steel, and by the time it is over, 2 soldiers are cut, and the Alpha King himself has a gash along his ribs that he actually tries, to walk away from. "Sit down," Lyra says. The great hall goes silent. Soldiers freeze mid-breath. Nobody speaks to Kael in that voice. Nobody has, perhaps, ever. The Alpha King looks at the little healer on her crutch, propped in the doorway like an angry sparrow, and, the hall will retell this for years, sits down. She cleans and stitches the wound in his own war room, firelight, just the 2 of them, her hands steady on the body of the most dangerous wolf alive. This close, his scent is everywhere. Wood smoke, winter pine, that impossible hearth. And her silent wolf presses up against the inside of her ribs like a dog against a door. Her fingers do not shake. Her heart is another matter. "You hate this," she observes, tying off a stitch. "Being tended. I dislike owing." "You bought me," Lyra says, before she can stop herself. "There's no debt. A man doesn't owe his knife." His hand closes over her wrist. Not hard, but entire, like weather. "Is that what you think you are here?" His voice is low, and for one unguarded instant, the storm-gray eyes are not cold at all. They are ravenous and lonely and young. "A knife?" "I heard the general," she whispers. "I'm your leverage." A long moment. The fire spits. Something in his face fights, climbs almost all the way to the surface. She can see the words forming, can feel the whole night tip toward them. Then a knock. Dathan's dry voice through the door. "My king, the blood moon business." And the wall comes down over Kael like winter over a field. He releases her wrist. "Send in the counselor," he says, and to her, without looking, "You're finished here. Go." She goes. She sits in her narrow room and hates that her wrist still burns and tells herself again, leverage, tool, knife, and almost believes it. Which is when the letter comes. Serna slips it under her door near midnight, a travel-stained page, no seal, carried hand to hand by a peddler who was paid at Silverfang's border to ask for the healer and no one else. Lyra unfolds it by candlelight. The hand is elegant, aristocratic, and the last hand in the world she expects. "Girl, they tell me you poisoned Elder Vane, whose sickness began 2 moons before you ever brewed for him. They tell me your records burned in a fire no one saw lit. I sat 4 nights watching you refuse to let my pups die, and I know what I know. You do not have poison in you. I am the Luna of Silverfang, and I am reopening the matter of Elder Vane, quietly, inside my own walls, where the rot is. Trust no messenger but this one, and be warned, the Elder still lives, still fails, a little more each week, which means whatever they burned, the poisoner is not finished. Someone in Silverfang is still dosing him." Chapter 5. Lyra does not sleep. She reads the letter until the candle drowns, and one line keeps rising off the page like heat. The poisoner is not finished. Which means Elder Vane can still be saved. Which means the crime she was banished for has not fully happened yet, and the person still dosing him must stand close enough to touch his food or his medicine. Close, trusted, patient. She thinks of a hawk's eyes watching her hands. That's why it had to be you. She cannot prove it. Her ledger is ash, but a healer's ledger is only ink. The knowledge is still in her. And so, by candle stubs over the next 3 nights, Lyra does the only thing she knows how to do. She rebuilds it. Every visit to Elder Vane, every date, every dose, every symptom, from memory, in a plain gray book, Serna finds her. Dates of the gray gums, dates of the coin metal breath, the rhythm of the sickness, rising and falling like a tide that always rose after council feasts. She writes until her hand cramps, and at the bottom of the last page, she writes the one sentence that matters. Bitter moss poisoning follows the giver, not the healer. Match the sick days to one man's presence, and you have him. She sends it back down the peddler's road to the Luna of Silverfang, and then there is nothing to do but wait, and heal soldiers, and watch the moon fatten toward blood. Day 15, halfway. And this is the day the king's wall cracks. It cracks over something small. Everything true is small at first. A supply cart overturns on the mountain road in freezing rain. Lyra rides out with the rescue party because 2 drivers are pinned, and she is soaked to the bone and setting a shoulder in the mud when she looks up and finds Kael there. No guards, no cloak, lifting the cart's axle himself so she can pull the second man free. King and healer, drenched, filthy, working as one pair of hands. Afterward, in the gatehouse, someone builds a fire, and the rescued drivers sleep, and somehow it is just the 2 of them again, steam rising off their clothes. You could have sent soldiers, she says. They were my drivers. You're a king. I was a soldier first. He watches the fire. My father was the conqueror. I was only the boy who counted what conquest costs. And then, quieter, and she understands she is hearing words no one in this fortress has ever heard. Do you know why this keep has no healers, Lyra? Because I stopped asking for them. Every man I let tend my wounds sold what he learned of me within the year. It is simpler to bleed alone. It is simpler to bleed alone. She knows that sentence. She has lived inside that sentence since she was a child. You have spent your whole life mending others, Lyra hears herself say into the firelight. Let someone hold the needle for you, just once. He turns, and the look he gives her then is the one from the war room, unguarded, ravenous, lonely. But this time he does not fight it down, and the space between them closes without either of them seeming to move. His hand rises, not to claim, to tuck one wet strand of hair from her cheek, slowly, as if she is made of something a war court has no word for. When I found you in the snow, he says, I did not smell a stranger. Her heart stops. What did you smell? His thumb rests at her jaw. His forehead comes down to touch hers. Just that, only that. And it undoes her more than any kiss could. And the word leaves him like a confession dragged out by torture. Home. Somewhere down in the deepest room of her, something that has been silent for 24 years opens its eyes. Then he pulls back, all at once like a man stepping back from a cliff edge, breathing hard. Forgive me, Kael says, formal as a treaty, and he is gone into the rain before she can find one single word. But everything after that night is different, and the whole fortress feels it. He comes into the infirmary now instead of haunting its doorway. He learns her herb names. She learns which of his silences are storms and which are shelters. On the 17th day, he sends to the city, without telling her, for a proper healer's cabinet with brass hinges, and pretends he did not. On the 18th, she leaves willow tea outside the war room on the nights he does not sleep, and pretends she did not. Serna watches all this pretending over her bread dough and says nothing, smiling like a woman who has seen spring come before. And on the 19th evening, mark this one because she will keep it all her life, there is an hour with no wounds, no summons, no counsel. Snow falling fat and soft past the infirmary window. Kael sits by her fire mending his own sword belt like any common soldier, because he claims her chairs are the only honest ones in the fortress, and Lira grinds herbs, and Serna brings bread with honey, and the boy from the stables, her fever boy, loud with health now, sprawls on the hearthstones teaching an ancient hound to shake hands. No one speaks much. The fire cracks, the snow comes down. The king of the war court laughs, once, low, real, at the hound's dignity, and Lira looks around her small, warm room and understands, with a shock like stepping into summer water, that she cannot remember when she stopped feeling like a knife. This is what she never had in Silverfang, in the pack that only knew her name when it bled. Not glory, this. A fire, bread, a boy, a dog, and a man who looks at her the way the thirsty look at rain. Let it last, she thinks. Moon goddess, whatever comes, let me keep this 1 hour. The horn sounds at first light. Not the war horn, the gate horn. Visitors under a truce banner. Lira comes out into the snowy courtyard with the whole keep, and her blood turns to river ice. Silverfang banners, a dozen riders, and at their head, golden and grave, and wearing his father's illness like a mourning cloak, sits Beta Roskin. Chapter 6. They meet in the great hall, all iron courtesy. The war court on one side, the Silverfang envoys on the other, and Lira standing to the king's left because Kael, wordless, moved her there with one look when the guards tried to seat her below. Roskin performs grief beautifully. He always did. "My father is dying," he tells the hall, voice breaking exactly where it should. "The poisoner's work outlives her banishment. Silverfang comes with one demand only. The treaty is broken while this criminal stands under the war court's roof. Surrender her to us now. Spare the Silver Court the trouble. Or stand before the blood moon in 10 days as oath breakers and answer for it with war." The clause is lawful, Kael says, flat as hammered iron. A packless healer taken into service. "A convicted poisoner," Roskin returns silkily, "sheltered by a king. Strange service that seats her at your left hand." His eyes find Lira then, and just for her, beneath the grief, the hawk looks out, satisfied, patient, unfinished. "The Silver Court will see it as we do." "The Silver Court," says a dry, sorrowful voice, "has already seen." Counselor Dathan rises from the council bench, thin as winter, and Lira watches, everyone watches, as the oldest servant of the peace lays a sealed ruling on the table like a man laying down a burden. "I wrote to the elder alphas myself, weeks ago, because someone had to think of the living instead of the..." His tired eyes touch Lyra, gently, terribly. The personal. The court has pre-ruled. If the girl stands in this fortress at the blood moon, the treaty is void, and every pack in 5 territories is released to war upon the war court. 300 soldiers, my king, against the world your father made. He bows his white head. I have served 3 kings. I will not watch the 3rd burn for a healer. The hall erupts. Bren shouting law, envoys shouting treachery, and through all of it, Kael has gone silent in the way that empties rooms, and Lyra, cold to the marrow, does the arithmetic of her own worth. 300 lives, a treaty 2 generations old, 1 hollow-born healer. She has been many burdens. She will not be this one. The keep sleeps badly that night. She doesn't sleep at all. She packs. The gray ledger book, willow bark, bread from Cerna's kitchen that she cannot ask for without weeping. And she is at the small postern gate an hour before dawn when his voice comes out of the dark behind her. 10 years I have held these walls, Kael says quietly, and no one has ever gotten past my sentries. But I did not post sentries for you. I posted myself. Let me go. Her voice shakes. If I'm gone before the blood moon, the clause dies quietly, the treaty stands, and no one, they will kill you. Then they kill a healer. She turns on him, blazing, breaking. Instead of 300 soldiers and a boy in your stables and everything your father built and you bled for, I know what I am, Kael. I have always known. I'm the thing that costs less. What happens then is not what happens in songs. He does not roar. The most feared alpha in 5 territories stands in the snow of his own gateyard and says, in a voice stripped down to the boy who counted what conquest costs, "Don't." Only that. And it stops her like a wall. There is something you were never told, Kael says. Something I was never told either. I dug it out of the treaty vault after Dathan's little performance, because that ruling stank of fear, and I wanted to know what an old man could still be afraid of. He draws from his cloak a page, no, a parchment, brittle, black-inked, sealed twice in blood gone brown with 60 years. The original treaty, not the copies read aloud at councils, the root text, in his own young hand. Read the 3rd clause. She reads by lantern light, frost on her lashes, reads it twice. The ground moves under her. The clause does not speak of borders or trade or war. It speaks of bloodlines. 2. By name. The healer line of Silverfang and the conqueror line of the war court. It forbids their joining, marriage, marking, mating. Above all, it forbids the recognition of a fated bond between them. And there, in Dathan's own faded ink, is the reason. The thing Lyra reads aloud in a, because saying it any louder might crack the sky. For under the old law that stands above all councils, a moon-sworn fated pair of these 2 lines together outranks the silver court, the war court, and every alpha seated or crowned, and no treaty, ruling, or banishment made by lesser hands may bind them. The parchment trembles in her fingers. The treaty was never a peace, Kael says. It was a cage, built 2 generations ago by frightened old men for exactly 2 people. His storm gray eyes hold hers, and the last wall in them comes down. Lira, it was built for us. The bond I have hidden from you since the snow. The bond Dathan has feared since the hour I carried you through those gates doesn't break the treaty. It outranks it, she. Which is why, says from the dark colonnade, and lanterns flare, and steel whispers, and Counselor Dathan steps out with 6 council guards at his back, and 40 years of gentle sorrow gone from his face at last. Neither of you can be allowed to reach the blood moon. Chapter 7. 6 guards, steel drawn, an old man's life's work, standing in the snow with nothing gentle left in it. You will both remain in this fortress under council seal until the blood moon has passed, Dathan says. Absent from the court, the girl is condemned by default. The clause dies, the treaty stands. It is not cruelty, my king. It is arithmetic. 2 people weighed against the peace of 5 territories. You knew, Lira says. Her voice is very quiet, and somehow it carries over the drawn steel. From the first day, you called me a knife balanced on its point. You knew what I was to him before I did. Child, I have watched for your bloodline for 40 years. For one moment, the old sorrow is real. I hoped the moon had forgotten. She had not. She never does. No, says Kael. She never does. And the Alpha King does not draw his sword. He does something the war court will retell for 100 years. He takes Lyra's hand, in front of the council guards, in front of the law, in front of the whole watching night, the first time he has ever simply held it. And he speaks past Dathan to the 6 men with steel in their hands. You heard the clause read, old law above all councils. Raise iron against a fated pair of the 2 lines, and you raise iron against the moon herself. So choose, sons of the war court, your counselor's cage or your king's mate. The snow falls, the lanterns hiss. One by one, 6 times, 6 small thunderclaps, the swords go back into their sheaths. Dathan ages 10 years in a breath, but even beaten, the architect knows his own building. It changes nothing, he whispers. The old law demands the bond be proven, recognized by both, sworn before witnesses, tested before the court itself. She cannot even feel it, can she? Hollow-born. A last terrible gentleness. You will stand before the blood moon with a bond only one of you can swear to, and they will tear it apart. Then we stand, says Lira, and let them try. 10 days later, the blood moon rises over the silver court like a wound in the sky, and Lira walks into the great stone circle of the elder alphas on her own 2 feet, the leg healed, the crutch left behind, past the banners of every pack in 5 territories, past Silverfang's banner, past the alpha who sentenced her, the packmates who forgot her name, and Beta Roskin, golden in his mourning clothes, already tasting the verdict. She does not walk behind the Alpha King. She walks at his side. The whole court sees it, and the whisper runs the stones like fire in dry grass. The charges are read. Poisoner, treaty breaker. The clause is read and mocked. Dathan, seated now among the elders, a witness for the peace he built, testifies in a dead man's voice that the war court's king has been ensnared. Roskin weeps for his father, dying even now at Silverfang, dying of her work, and calls across the circle for the old sentence to be carried out at last. The court will hear the accused, the eldest Alpha says. Lyra rises. 24 years of being invisible, and now 5 territories are looking at her, and she finds, to her own wonder, that her hands are perfectly steady. They are healer's hands. They have always been steadiest when something is dying. I have only ever had one witness, she says clearly, and I was told it burned. So I will not defend myself. I will do the one thing I know how to do. She looks straight at Roskin. I will make a healer's record, out loud, before the moon. And she does. Date by date, dose by dose, symptom by symptom. The whole gray ledger, rebuilt from memory, laid out in the plain, warm voice of a woman who has explained medicine to frightened families all her life, so simply that every wolf in the circle can follow it. The gray gums, the coin metal breath, the sickness that began 2 moons before her first brewing, and then the pattern, the tide, laid against the feast calendar of the Silverfang Council, which the court itself keeps. Bitter moss follows the giver, not the healer, Lyra says. Elder Vane sickened after council feasts, never after my visits. Match the sick days to one man's presence, and you have your poisoner. I could not do the matching. My records burned. She pauses. But I sent everything I knew to someone who could. And she did, says a cold, aristocratic voice from the entrance of the circle. Every head turns. Luna Maressa of Silverfang walks into the blood moonlight with her guards, her pups, and a leather satchel, and she does not look at her own Pax Beta at all, which is how everyone knows. I reopened the matter of Elder Vane inside my own walls, the Luna tells the court. Because 6 winters ago, this girl sat 4 nights without sleep and would not let my children die. And I never once thanked her, and I have carried that like a stone. Here is what the stone bought. She opens the satchel. The kitchen rosters, the feast calendars, a pouch of bitter moss found sewn into a mourning cloak, and Elder Vane's own steward, outside this circle, ready to swear who brought his master's evening cup on every sick day for a year. Now, finally, she looks at Roskin. His son. The circle detonates. Roskin is shouting, "Forgery! Conspiracy! The ravings of a shamed Luna!" And it might even have held, one word against another, except for the last thing, the small thing, the healer's thing. There is a remedy, Lyra says, over all of it, and the noise dies because her voice is the only calm one left. Bitter moss kills slowly, which means it forgives slowly. Elder Vane can still be saved. I wrote the antidote regimen into the pages the Luna carries. Any healer can follow it. She turns to the elders. Ask yourselves one question, honored court. The sun knew I kept records of every dose. If those records proved my guilt, why burn them? Silence, the kind that decides things. The eldest Alpha looks at Roskin for a long moment. Seize the beta of Silverfang, he says, for the poisoning of his own father. And it is done. Done in 20 heartbeats. The golden sun dragged past the banner of his pack, and the last thing Lira sees in his hawk's eyes is the mouse hole looking back, which leaves only the bond. The conviction is annulled, the eldest says slowly, and the banishment with it. But annulment restores her to Silverfang, and the treaty stands between your lines, War King, unless the old law's condition is met before this court. A fated bond recognized by both, moon-sworn before witnesses. His old eyes are not unkind. Can the girl swear it? And here it is, Dathan's last arrow, the one truth Lira has dreaded through 10 sleepless nights. She is hollow-born. Her wolf has been silent all her life. She has felt warmth, longing, home, but the bond, the lightning Kael felt in the snow. How can she swear to what she has never? Kael steps into the center of the circle and kneels. The most feared alpha alive kneels for the second time in his life, before 5 territories, in the blood-red light. And this time, it is not to invoke a clause. I signed away a bloodline in ink, he says, and his voice fills the stones. The moon signed her to me in something older. I have hidden it, starved it, caged it in a law, because I was afraid of costing her more than she had already paid. She was thrown away once for being blameless. I would not have her thrown into a war for being loved. I am done being afraid. Lira of the healer line. Not my leverage, not my knife, not my healer. He holds out his hand, palm up, the way you reach for something you have no right to. My home. If you cannot feel it yet, then censor nothing. I will wait at your side, unmated, until the moon gives you back what your pack starved out of you, if it takes the rest of my life. And Lira, looking down at the kneeling king, feels it happen. Not lightning. She will always tell it truly. It was not lightning. It was a door. The door of a warm house opening in deep winter, firelight falling out across the snow, and her wolf, silent 24 years, not hollow after all, only waiting, rises through her like the spring thaw and howls loud enough that half the court flinches and the other half weeps. Wood smoke, winter pine, home. She smells him, truly at last, and the bond snaps into place like the last stitch closing a wound. I swear it, Lira says, and puts her hand in his. Moonsworn. I feel it. I feel you. The blood moon stands directly overhead. Under the old law, before every alpha seated or crowned, the healer and the conqueror rise together, outranking the cage that was built for them 60 years before they were born. Somewhere in the crowd, an old architect puts his face in his hands, and the horns that sound over the stone circle are not Silverfang's hunting horns. They are singing. Epilogue. 1 year later, snow is falling on the neutral forest again. And the neutral forest is not called that anymore. The maps name it the Bridefield now, and there is a road through it, and on the road, lamps. Lira stands at the window of the healing hall built where the pines used to crowd darkest. the great hall she asked for instead of a crown's jewels, where healers from every pack train side by side, hollow-born, welcome first. Her leg aches faintly in the cold, the way old breaks do. She does not mind. Some scars are ledgers, too. They record what was survived. Elder Vane lives. He walked again by midsummer, and the first walk he took was here, leaning on his steward, to hold her hands in his papery ones and weep. Silverfang has a new beta, chosen this time by a Luna no one calls cold anymore. Maressa's pups come every full moon to be spoiled by Serna, who rules the Bridefield kitchens like a small, warm empire. The fever boy is 15 now, and insufferable, and Lyra's first apprentice. Dathan's treaty hangs in the silver court under glass, kept, Kael insisted, as a warning. This is what fear builds. The old man himself tends a garden by the sea, stripped of his seat, spared his life. Lyra asked for that. She is a healer. She does not waste even what fools have made of themselves. The door of the hall opens behind her, and the cold comes in, and with it wood smoke and winter pine. "You are watching the snow again," says the Alpha King, and his arms come around her from behind, and his chin rests on her hair, and against her back she can feel his heartbeat, steady now. It only races for good reasons these days. "I like the snow," Lyra says. "It keeps its promises." Once, blood on snow was the whole of what she owned. A red line dragged between the pines, ending in a broken girl the world had thrown away. Now she watches the flakes come down fat and soft over the lamp-lit road, over the hall full of sleeping patients and studying apprentices, over the gates that stand open, her gates, which have never once been closed against anyone. And she carries a different mark on her shoulder. Given tenderly on a wedding night, the songs are already getting wrong, and a small new heartbeat under her own, which Kael does not know about yet, and which she is going to tell him tonight, by the fire, with bread and honey, in the hour with no summons. "Come inside, my heart," he says. "You'll freeze." "No," says the Luna of the war court, the healer the pack forgot, the girl worth less than a treaty, and turns in the arms of the man who knelt in the snow. "I never freeze anymore. Someone taught me the way home." Behind them, down the lamp-lit road, the horns of two packs sound across the Bridefield together, not warning, not war, calling everyone in to supper.